again. In this video, we're going to be talking about verb tense questions from the writing portion on the SAT. Now, as you can see here, verb tense questions account for about 19% of all of the questions on the writing section. That means basically 1 out of every 5 questions on the writing portion is going to contain some aspect related to verb tense. What is verb tense? Well, verb tense refers to the time in which the action of a verb takes place. It could be in the past, the present, or the future. Generally, these verb tense questions will ask you to identify verbs that are in the wrong tense and/or correct them by placing them in the correct tense. There are 2 major things that you want to keep in mind with verb tense questions. The first thing here, make it match. Generally, it's a good idea if verbs that are nearby each other are in the same tense. So basically, for instance, if you're seeing a lot of verbs that are in the past tense and then all of a sudden a verb that's in the future or the present tense, check out that different verb. The one that's in the future or the present tense should probably also be in the past tense. This doesn't mean that every time you see 2 verbs that are in different tenses there's a problem, but it's generally a good idea to check these things out a little bit further if you see tenses that don't match each other. Second tip that we've got here, ing verbs are bad. Simply put, verbs that end in ing often lead to awkward sentences. Therefore, these types of verbs are often wrong on the SAT. If you see an ing verb, make pretty darn sure that it's supposed to be an ing verb. More specifically, being and having are the 2 worst offenders as far as ing verbs go. Any sentence with being or having is usually wrong. Let's take a look at some examples. Here's the first one. The students were unprepared for Friday's difficult test simply because of believing that the exam was on Monday. We can apply the 2 rules that I just mentioned and narrow down the answer choices significantly. First of all, let's get rid of any sentences with ing verbs. A, B, and D all have bad ing verbs. D specifically contains one of our least favorite words, being, and A and B, if you read them, are pretty darn awkward, and the reason is basically because of the ings. That leaves us with C and E. If we apply our other principle of making verbs match other verbs that are nearby, we come up with C, which is the correct answer. Notice at the beginning of the sentence, we get the verb unprepared. It's in the past tense, simple past tense form, and it's got an ed ending. That's a pretty darn good clue that C, which has the word believed, which is also in the simple past tense, is the right answer. And indeed it is. Let's go on to another example. In this one, we're trying to find the part that is wrong. No matter when they were born or what their past experiences are, the children were grateful for having been given a second chance to go to school. The answer here is C. The verb are should be replaced with were. And the clue here is that we have a reference to the past already at the beginning of the sentence. It says, no matter when they were born or what their past experiences were. We even get the specific word past, and we already have the word were earlier in the sentence. So based on our principle of making things match and just generally making verbs in the right tense, we need to say experiences were instead of experiences are. One more example and I'll let you go. Let's have a look at the next question here. After the Great Depression, the U.S. Congress passed legislation that they believed would have guaranteed economic stability. It probably sounded a little weird right off the bat, but would have is the wrong tense for this particular situation. Let's get rid of a couple of the other answers. Answer C is incorrect as well. Had guaranteed puts us in the past perfect tense, which is the wrong tense for this situation. D, will guarantee. Will guarantee is a future tense verb and thus also wrong for this particular sentence. We can only use will guarantee if we're starting in the present tense and looking further into the future. E, guarantees is also incorrect because it's in the present tense. That leaves us with answer B. I'll read the whole sentence with this choice. After the Great Depression, the U.S. Congress passed legislation that they believed would guarantee ongoing economic stability. Hopefully that sounds a little better to your ears as well as mine. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you another time.